Hey YouTubers, it's Charlie. This is going to be my Game of Thrones finale video. Oh my god, they paid off so many big moments. Some of the things we were expecting, definitely a few surprises, so just careful for spoilers if you haven't seen the episode yet. So many things that they had to wrap up. I think the biggest surprise was that they went back to the Dorne storyline, like, oh, they found a reason. And I guess you could look at this as the show's version of Dorne master plan. It's just that it's more Varys that's behind the plan. So he's found his supporters, all the Martells, pretty much everyone that Cersei has done wrong. Which makes you think about what's going to be happening in the north with King Crow. Like, when Daenerys comes to Westeros, they're mostly talking about what's going on in the south with all these alliances. They haven't talked too much about what's going on in the north. So there was a lot of imagery going back to Season 2, Season 3 during the War of the Five Kings. Especially with the reverse red wedding Frey pies moment. Mass transit be damned. I was totally happy with that moment, even though it throws logic out the window a little bit with the way people move across the world so fast. So top 10 WTF, I'll explain book stuff as we go. There was a lot of book moments in here, but obviously they've changed a couple things because there are characters on the show that are dead in the books, there are characters in the books that are still alive. So Dan and Dave said a lot of the way they're building drama in the final two seasons is in working with the characters that they do have, like Mad Queen Cersei. But here we go, top 10 WTF. Number 10, everybody getting ready for the trial. So this is just an amazing use of silence. I mean, there was a little bit of music, but for a large part of this episode, it was dead quiet. It just makes things feel so much more serious compared to other episodes when there are drums banging, when people are running, like Arya's chased through the streets. So I always give mad props to the show for the way it uses music, or the way it doesn't use music, as is the case with the preparation for the trial. So number 9 is Loras confessing all of his crimes. He confesses to everything completely. They give him the special Faith Militant tattoo, just like carve it right into his forehead. You can totally see in his eyes that he believes everything he is saying. You have to remember that Marjorie, who seems like she supports the faith, is really putting on an act. She's just trying to survive. But the problem is she's been trying to save her brother, and it almost seems like she can't, at least up until Cersei gets her way. But number 8, Pycelle is killed by the little birds, and while it isn't funny, there's a certain comedy to it. Like as in he's kind of being very smug. He tells the whore that he's going to pay her later. So it's fun the way they had these scenes juxtaposed with the Loras scenes. Like Loras is admitting to all his crimes, all of his falsehoods, and accepting the gods. And it's almost like Pycelle is being very false, in that he wears the chain of Grand Maester and is supposed to have a life of service, even though he's enjoying all these things that he's not supposed to. So him dying is almost like a form of justice. Like Qyburn, as evil as he seems, is really just a scientist that wants to serve. He has no grand ambitions, he doesn't bear you any ill will, he's just serving the will of the Queen Cersei. So because Qyburn seems like he's one of the few people that has some sense in him that's around Cersei, I'll be curious to see how he reacts to Varys and all these other people, all these other forces that are swirling around. But of course, number 7, Lancel finds the wildfire. I think we all expected it to happen. It wasn't so much about surprise, it was more about suspense. Even though it's all meant to be very cinematic, the way they film it, all the props that they use, it's actually fairly ingenious, using little candles as fuses to set the wildfire off. But I was so happy that they blew the Great Sept up instead of the Red Keep, because there's wildfire all over King's Landing. But I guess you could look at Cersei as having used all of it. But the interesting thing is that scene, the footage, is taken directly from Bran's vision. So now we know that Bran not only sees into the past, but he also gets visions of the future. What about inside the Great Sept though? As Marjorie, like the wheels in her head are starting to turn, oh, Cersei doesn't want to come. She's not showing up, maybe she's up to something. We need to get out of here right now. I feel like this is the writers not trying to throw Marjorie under the bus, even though she's always been a secondary character to Cersei. Cersei's always one of the biggest, if not the biggest character in King's Landing, so anytime someone comes up against her, you know that she's probably just going to railroad them. So I feel like this is them just trying to balance the Marjorie character out. She was much bigger on the TV show than she was in the books. She wasn't that big of a character in the books. But number 5, speaking of wildfire, I bet you they have plans for how to make more of that in the Citadel. This was actually some of the rare comedy in the episode, just like this really funny Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy bureaucracy moment where he enters the library and it's just this awkward silence, just a little physical comedy as he tries to explain what's going on. So yeah, sorry we didn't tell you, Maester Aemon died, the old bear died, Jon Snow's been Lord Commander, a whole bunch of stuff has happened, but we've been so busy, that's why we haven't sent a raven to let you know what's up. So I think I've done a few videos about the Citadel, but we've never actually got to see inside it. So it's just like this very Harry Potter Doctor Who moment where it's bigger on the inside. Just this magnificent reveal as Samwell looks like he's about ready to cry, he's so happy. But the Citadel itself is where everyone studies to be a maester to forge their chain. You take new areas of study to forge a different link on the chain. You learn medicine, you learn ravenry, you even learn stuff about the occult. They're all different links that you can forge in the maester's chain. But the thing is that it takes a long time. It's not like going to college. It's not like a 4-year degree. If Samwell were going by the books, it would be like a 10-year plan. So the show is probably going to speed things up. He'll probably find a way to send messages to Jon Snow about things that he's learned, ways to fight the White Walkers. I feel like Wildfire would come in handy, but the Alchemist Guild is different from the Maesters. So the show might bend some logic, like Arya teleporter logic bending, so that Samwell finds the plans for how to make Wildfire, or just, something that is of great value. But yay for Samwell, so happy for him and Gilly. She'll end up having to stay somewhere in Old Town because they don't allow women in the Citadel, but you get the idea. They're in Old Town now for the foreseeable future. Number 4 is Tommen jumping out the window like Bran was pushed out the window. Nice mirror for that, only this time it's Cersei's fault, it's not Jaime's fault. It's funny how they do things like that, but I love the way they pulled that scene off, where he very calmly takes his crown off. There's dead silence, there's no music playing over the scene, and he slowly runs out, just swan dives out the window. He was definitely not my favorite character, but he had his moments, so I was sad to see him go, but it was really awesome the way they pulled it off and what it means for Cersei's character. The fact that she's just going to go off the deep end now because there's no children to balance her out. So number 3, Cersei versus Shame Nun, Round 2. This was so amazing, and this coupled with Cersei being crowned Queen of the Seven Kingdoms. Cersei Lannister was crowned Queen of the Seven Kingdoms, not Cersei Baratheon, so that's actually an important point. So now it really is going to be the kingdom rallying against the Lannisters. The Lannisters under Cersei are now more true villains of the show. But don't you just love how she's just slowly wineboarding, like she's waterboarding the Shame Nun with wine, walking around confessing all the crimes, the thing that she refused to do before when she was at her mercy. Oh, I had sex with my brother. I killed my husband. She's talking about Robert. Completely unapologetic about any of her transgressions. She's like, I did it because it felt good. I had sex with my brother because it felt good to have him inside me. She didn't say anything about loving him, so that actually might be a cue for things between them later. But I love the way Dan and Dave talked about Jaime's character as he's kind of seeing the damage that Cersei's wrought and what's been going on since he's been gone. He says that he is now super afraid of Cersei, just as afraid of Cersei as anybody else would be, because she is now full-on Mad Queen. She did the thing that the Mad King tried to do, but did not end up doing. Like, Jaime stopped him before he blew everyone up with Wildfire. So even though there's this amazing victory for Cersei in this episode, she defeats all of her enemies in one fell swoop, but she walks away feeling like the villain, even though she's one of the protagonists of the show. She's one of the main characters. She hasn't really been a villain in the past, even though she's been a super bitch. But now she is more of a true villain than she's ever been. I will say the most compelling human villain on the show right now, because we still have the Night King, and he is very inhuman. So can you not just wait for Daenerys versus Cersei? That is just going to be so much fun. Number 2, Daenerys sails for Westeros with her mighty ships. I love how they have Targaryen sails on a bunch of them. That's also a bit of a bend in logic. It would take them forever to make all those sails. So again, it's just like the show compressing time. Like, okay, we want this really awesome image of this Targaryen fleet sailing west with dragons overhead with this really hopeful music like, oh my god, fortune and glory. This is going to be so amazing. What an amazing way to tee up an alliance with Dorne too. What do you offer? Your heart's content. Fire and blood. And of course, my number 1, no surprise here, Bran finishes the Tower of Joy vision, sees how Jon Snow was born, how Ned became honor-bound to protect him from Robert and everyone that might want to kill him in this really tender moment. I really love what the actress, Lyanna Stark here, did with this. Obviously, it's a different actress because she's much older than the last flashback that we saw, but it was still a very amazing scene, even though it was very brief. In the way they transitioned to Jon Snow's face, there was really 2 reasons for them to do that. 1, it looked amazing. It was a very cinematic way to film that transition scene. But 2, it was a way to tell people who don't read the books or don't read about the theories who that baby was. Like, oh, we're looking at Jon Snow here. Because Lyanna kind of softly whispered the name to Ned. You almost couldn't hear it if you didn't turn the volume way up. But then Jon is promptly crowned King in the North because Lyanna Mormont, of course, she saves the day. She remembers for the North. So bonus top moment is Lyanna Mormont for the win, helping the North remember. And I know I haven't really talked about the Sansa Littlefinger stuff. Really, what I feel like is going on in that storyline, he has a big reveal where he's like, I remain true to my conviction by telling myself over and over that I'm going to make it a reality. It's me sitting on the Iron Throne with you. That was a surprise to me, the fact that he wanted to be on the Iron Throne with Sansa. I always figured he would try to do it the more legit way by marrying Sweet Robin to her and then trying to put them on the throne. This is a little more insidious, so they're trying to show you that even though Littlefinger has helped the good guys out, so to speak, he is still very much not a good guy. And that look on Sansa's face is just like, oh god, I'm gonna have to deal with this for another 2 years. So when I say that, what I mean is the Littlefinger plot in this northern storyline is just going to be used to create drama and intrigue in the next 2 seasons. Because there were so many big wins after this big battle in episode 9 that there's not a lot of drama anymore. Like the entirety of the North swears fealty to King Crow, Jon Snow, King in the North, just like Robb Stark, so there had to be a way to create some drama because they're not quite ready to bring the White Walkers south of the Wall, so we have Littlefinger. Like, oh, you want your mustache-twirling villain? I guess that's my cue to step out. So Littlefinger is a little contrived in these moments, but he's really filling the vacuum left by Ramsay in a more insidious way. He is definitely the most evil person in this room. He's the only person that isn't cheering. Sansa even smiles. She actually seems genuinely happy for Jon Snow, and I feel like even if she gets led astray by Littlefinger, like Dan and Dave were like, in this moment she's a little jealous of Jon, I feel like she's gonna do the right thing. But you can see how Jon Snow might be stepping on some of Sansa's toes now. They're gonna have some awkwardness at the beginning of next season, but hopefully they don't mire themselves in bullshit like that. Like what I'd really like to see is Sansa be like, no, you take this seat, this is yours, I'm totally happy to be here, as long as you consult me, and some of the drama will come when Jon Snow makes decisions without her. So yeah, it might get a little soapy, but I don't think it's gonna devolve into bullshit. Let me know in the comments though, what was your guys' favorite moment from the episode? Was it Cersei being queen? Was it the Jon Snow reveal? I definitely say there were so many things that we expected to happen in this episode that happened. I was so happy that they paid them off, like the Jon Snow stuff. Cersei being a true villain, I didn't expect her to be crowned Queen of the Seven Kingdoms. That, along with Arya Frey pies, probably the biggest surprises for me from the episode. But I almost forgot to talk about Frey pies. So Frey pies is a thing from the books, like Walder Frey's family being cooked into pies, then those pies being served to him. But the Arya stuff is like the off-book stuff. So you see how Arya is probably going to be coming back, crossing names off her list in the next season. So even though I'm really excited to see Daenerys butt heads with Cersei, I feel like if anyone's going to kill Cersei now, it'll either be Jaime or it'll be Arya. And I think it'll probably be Arya. It really does feel like the show would give Arya that kill, now that she is back in Westeros and kind of running around independent. So going into season 7 now, we have the King in the North, we have Queen Cersei, then further in the south, we have the Daenerys Alliance. So it's almost like Westeros is now broken into 3 different pieces. We have Jon Snow up in the north, Cersei ruling in the middle, and then Daenerys ruling down in the south. So you can kind of see how the show is plotting Daenerys' route out. She'll slowly make her way up to the wall. She'll have to go through Cersei to get there. She'll get to Jon Snow. Like Dario's like, who are you going to marry now? I don't know. I'll put this image here and just let you guys think about the idea that Targaryens traditionally wed brother to sister, although technically Daenerys is Jon's aunt because Daenerys is the daughter of the Mad King and Jon is the son of Rhaegar Targaryen, the Mad King's oldest son. So get hype, it was a great season. But new round of the giveaway starts now. All you guys have to do to enter is be a subscriber and leave a comment on this video. My next video will probably be Season 7 predictions. There are a couple really easy ones. The show definitely teed up some really easy stuff where it's going to pick up next season. But I always try to expect a few surprises. So let me know what you guys think of the episode in the comments, and we will follow up tomorrow. So while you guys wait for my next video to post, you can click here to learn a little bit more about why it was so important that Jon Snow's mother be kept secret. And you can click here for last week's episode 9 video. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Let's high five. I'll see you guys tonight.